Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. How are you doing?
Very cheerful. There is a thunderstorm is rolling in down here in Panama. So if this
Oh.
suddenly gets very dark and crackly and loud, that's why it's not me ghosting you.
Well, I mean, I can make up my own interpretation of what's happening if it gets that dark and wild and crackly, but fair enough, fair enough. So, hey, we're here. Officially, this is an event that's part of Web3 Comic Con, put on by some friends of ours here in the intersection of Web3 and comics, which we are so much in the midst of. Um, I think the goal for today is to go behind the curtain a little bit and show off some stuff that some people may have seen little pieces of, but maybe haven't quite seen the whole picture of how we're building what we believe will be the future of comics and entertainment and digital collectible things that unlock all kinds of superpowers for making and consuming and collecting this wonderful world of comics and entertainment that we love so much. And as I like to say, doing it in a way that is really with the fans and community that organize around these things, as opposed to just, hey, let's make some stuff, put it out there, and hope that people like it.
Yep.
So we're going to go through a little bit of what we have on the traditional mobile side. We're going to demo and preview some of our Web3 platform, which is launching here in the next very short period of time, sometime within the next month or so. And then we've got a handful of people that have come in and are backstage right now. So we see you. And we did put out a link if anyone wants to join this stream live. We're happy to answer questions or dive deeper into anything that we talk about today. So just hang out. We see you, and we'll invite you into the show, into the stream in a short bit. But before I start talking about the mobile app and screen sharing a little bit on that side of things, Adam, why don't you give anyone that doesn't know us, who's kind of looking at, who are these two people and why are they here, and who are these interesting characters in the background?
Yep.
Give the kind of quick overview of like, who are we and why do we deserve to have your attention today?
It's very funny. I was actually looking at the display and realizing there are these they could be perceived as these menacing kind of Terminator-looking creatures about to step on us. Exactly. Sorry, funny. But no, so I'm Adam Martin. That is obviously my long-term partner, Evan Matthews. We have been running Macroverse together now for a few years, but creative partners and then friends for a couple of decades before that. Funny story, people may not know this, Evan actually recruited my wife and I into a network marketing company 21 years ago.
I was thinking, sorry to interrupt, but I was literally thinking about that this morning. I was 26. Like, it is mind-blowing to think about that. That was that year when we met.
That's really funny. I was 27 and my wife was pregnant with our first child, which is just crazy. Yeah, very, very funny. Who was just recently asking me about documentaries on MLMs, amusingly enough.
There's a great doc on, I mean, we're going all over the place. There's a great doc on Netflix right now, or no, it's on HBO Max. It's like a doc behind the scenes of the world's biggest telemarketing company, and like the one that like really set the standard for like the criminal nature of telemarketing. First episode's fantastic.
It's fantastic. Anyway, it's funny. So that deserves an Hooja flip section, but yes, I had seen that. Yeah, we're getting distracted. But either which way, Evan recruited us in the thing, and that we realized a few months into it that at that time at least we thought we were doing great things with the company, but we became very close friends and realized both of us had kind of come out and into LA to pursue entertainment in one way or another. Evan has a traditional illustration degree out of the Rollins School of Design. I weirdly enough have a physics degree, but it ended up in physical production in Hollywood. And both of us kind of very much loving what we were doing, but realizing we were basically destined to be making stuff for other people in perpetuity, and we wanted to make stuff for ourselves. So we started noodling ideas. We wrote a script together that we were lucky enough to kind of get optioned, and then that got us into some agencies, and we did some of that stuff, which was great, and met people, and then the script we wrote was zombie themed. Very cool series called Dead Town, and needless to say, right as it was starting to kind of get out there, The Walking Dead got picked up, and everybody just kind of dropped what we were doing immediately, which was frustrating, slightly disheartening, but very much part of the course when it comes to Hollywood. But we kind of kept going and we kept doing bits and pieces, and we really came back around into comics because Eben went out and pitched and basically got the rights to do a comic series based on the Boondock Saints movies, kind of action movies from the early 2000s, which was incredibly good fun. Lots of convention appearances and with the cast and the show, the creator, Troy Duffy, and had a really good time and sharply illuminated the issues with the traditional comics industry. And we had been kicking around for a while the idea of, hey, as opposed to just writing scripts and putting them out there and hoping something happens to them, why don't we write scripts and make them in some kind of comics way so we can actually, people can enjoy them, hopefully, and we'll get some feedback and they'll be out in the world and all those good things. But having hit this issue with the traditional publishers, we felt like, well, there must be a better way of doing this. Digital was kind of emerging at that point. Why don't we focus on that? So we, while doing various other things, kind of refined and iterated, and actually a lot of it based on a pitch deck that Eben had put together literally like 12 years ago, 14 years ago about Comics 2.0 and what that would be. So we kind of used that as a basis. And ultimately, with the series Dead Town that we had kind of had proved to die on us in kind of mainstream circles, working with the artist Stephen Perkins, we then developed this tap story format. So trying to make comics native to a mobile experience that we really liked. And then we felt like, hey, if we like this, the chances are other people will as well. So we built that up and launched that about 3 years ago now. And then, of course, like a lot of other people, ran into Web 2 a year or two later. Web 3, a year or two later. And realized, like, wait a second, the thing that's missing from our plans is collectability. And so you add digital collectability to kind of digital comics, and that felt like a match made in heaven. Yeah. So we spent the last couple of years, working with a ton of creators, developing our own stuff, working increasingly in other communities, talking to and hopefully nurturing other creators kind of to come up. We've produced a bunch of amazing stories. We've got a thriving community of creators and audience members and fans of the genre and all sorts of stuff. And it's been a really fun ride thus far. And there's lots more coming in the next little bit, which is kind of exciting.
It's only getting funner.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm gonna jump over. You touched on this, but the first thing that we launched was a traditional mobile app. And I'm actually showing a little sneak preview of this is the new tablet layout that has not yet gone live on the App Store, but is imminent going live on the App Store. So you'll see, kind of the basic format of it. I'm sharing this from my iPad over here. So, this is what's on iOS and Android right now. Again, there's on Android, this is live right now. On iOS, it's awaiting App Store approval. Which is a whole other Web3 platform conversation we could have. There are good things about open and permissionless. But as you can see, there's a ton of content on the app. We've launched 50 series on here at this point, hundreds and hundreds of episodes across those 50 series, about 100 plus creators that are involved in various ways. Here's Dead Town that Adam was mentioning, which was what we actually used to develop this format. But the key thing about the app is, number one, if you're at all familiar with other comics platforms, we are by far the most creator friendly, the most monetizable option for creators who want to create independent comics content. And when we say independent comics content, we mean professional but independent outside of Marvel and DC. So I like to talk about us in the context of the biggest comics platform on the planet right now is called Webtoon. They have 100 million monthly active users, but it's YouTube for comics. Anyone can publish. 1% of 1% of the people that publish there get any sort of real traction, and a small percentage of those people actually make any real income or money from the platform. So, when you compare the economics for webcomics on Webtoons compared to print, print still wins. And so part of the thing that we want to do is figure out what can we do on the digital world, which is so much wider as far as reaching an audience and reaching a worldwide audience, developing a fan base, developing a direct connection with the people that you're connected to through the content that you make. But doing it in a way where the quality bar could be kept incredibly high, the curation level could be kept incredibly high, and the monetization opportunity for creators that do connect with fans and readers was just exponentially better. And so we are, to Webtoons YouTube, we like to look at ourselves as HBO. So, that kind of super high quality bar subscription service, and the revenue that comes in through subscriptions is directly distributed to the creators that are on the platform. And so that's the big distinction, for what we're building. In addition to that, Adam talked about the format. We spent a lot of time, almost 2 years, prototyping all kinds of different experiments around, what is the right format for digital comics. Let's see, what should we jump into here by way of a demo?
I think Remind or
Headtown. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's dive into Remind. Yeah. So Remind, phenomenal creator. His name is Jason Brubaker. He was a concept artist on the Kung Fu Panda movies at DreamWorks. One of the early pioneers in webcomics. He was one of the first webcomics to have 1 million readers. And then a very early pioneer in Kickstarter as well. He successfully launched 6, plus graphic novels on Kickstarter, close to $1 million in funding at this point. And we've become the exclusive digital home for his content, as well as his next series, which is in production now, will be released through Macroverse before it ever goes to print. So when we started looking at digital, again, the comparison out there was kind of 2 things that existed in the world of digital comics. There's the PDF on an iPad approach, and then there's the endless scroll of Webtoons. So it's basically scrolling a news feed. Basically it's a web page. And so we wanted to look at and kind of deconstruct from a storytelling standpoint. And this is where I give us a lot of credit and pats on the back here, in that, we come from the world of storytelling, of making content. And so being able to figure out, kind of deconstructing what is the art form of comics, and the basics of that being the juxtaposition between images and text that tell a story, your brain having to play an active role in figuring out the context between these series of images, that you are able to understand that these come together in a way that makes sense to deliver a narrative. And so there are some drawbacks, and this could be I could spend an hour just on this, probably shouldn't. There are some drawbacks in both the PDF on an iPad approach and in the endless scroll approach when it comes to really embracing what is magical about this art form of comics. And so we created our solution to that, which we call a tap story. And it's very simple. Every time I tap the screen, something changes. And so what this does is it allows us to think about time as an element in storytelling. It allows us to move through these beautiful sequences of images that Jason created for this series in a way that makes you feel much more actively engaged in the way that the story unfolds. And so we really get to think about, how do we bring you through this story, through this sequence of images, in a way that delivers on that promise of the combination of images and text that create a context, that create a story as you move through it, but in a way that's natively digital, doing something that you couldn't do on a printed page. And I think that's where digital comics have always kind of fallen down, is it's been repurposing print for digital, as opposed to rethinking kind of the first principles of, like, what does digital do that print can't do? And so something as simple as this, where we keep this panel of Vittles, the cat character's name here, this panel stays the same as both the background and the second panel appear. Now we've changed the context of what's happening. Your brain can connect those dots. But again, something that we could never do on a printed page. You can't magically make those panels change in print, and you can't accomplish that in a scroll. So again, kind of something that is just magical about this format. So here again, here's one thing, changes the context to the next part of the story. Now replacing that top panel brings us into the next part of the story. You can see how the bottom half of this panel is replaced to now show what is Vittles looking at as we move through the sequence. So there's just all kinds of things that we can think about how we bring you through the story, feeling a little more cinematic while still being completely true to the art form that we love. So that's what we've launched on mobile. Again, there's a ton of content on there. We think it's the most reasonable subscription price for content that you could possibly ask for. It's about $5 a month. So if you're intrigued by this, go check out the app. We'll even, if you stick around to the end of the stream, we'll even give you a way to get a free trial for the app. But we've got a lot more coming there. So that's where we started. Then we fell down this Web3 rabbit hole. And I'm going to switch gears to what we've been building. Whoops. And that is my wife calling, but she's going to voicemail. So I'm going to stop streaming this screen. And let's talk about what we built on the Web3 side. So there's a little context which might be helpful here. As we've been building the Web3 side of the platform, that's taken some time. We've had to figure out, how to bring this format and the approach that we've taken to a lot of this stuff. How do I stop streaming this? Sorry, just a second. There we go. There you go. So we've had to figure out, how do we take this format and how do we package that inside a digital collectible edition? And I think the bar from the beginning was we didn't just want to create a token gated experience. We didn't just want to sell you a cover which represents the thing. We wanted you to actually own the thing. Like, to me, the thing that was so appealing about NFTs and digital collectibles and this new technology that we broadly call Web3 is the notion of being able to own a digital asset in its entirety. So, if I have a sword in a game and I'm able to ultimately take that into another game, I want to feel like I'm actually bringing that sword into the other game. I don't want to feel like I have a ticket to that sword that I can bring, between those two things. So it was important to us from the beginning that this be something that was fully packaged in a digital collectible. And that led to some innovation and some invention and a much longer time period for development than we probably wish that it had. So in the meantime, as we engaged with the Web3 world, we got to meet a bunch of incredible creators. We've gotten to work with a bunch of incredible communities and collaborators. And that led to a whole line of thinking, which has evolved into how can we not only deliver this content in this unique digital package, but how can we also really tie in the fundamental building block of storytelling, which I say is character. How do we tie all of these characters, these tens of thousands of characters that have been created through PFP projects and through these different communities? How do we bring those into the process? And so we've done that in a bunch of different ways. We're going to show a little piece of that, and then we're going to spend a lot more time talking about that tomorrow. So that whole thing I just said was set up for another session that we're doing tomorrow, which we hope you'll join. But it's how you actually bring characters from these different PFP collections, including ours, into the process of building content that is then released through what I'm going to show you now. As I pull this up, Adam, what have I missed, or what extra flavor can you add here?
I think the big thing to me, it's a couple of things, because you touched on this, but it's worth kind of reinforcing or underlining. It's the cinematic nature of what we're trying to do in fundamentally a print kind of static format. And it was one of these things, for me, coming from live action filmmaking, always thinking about the shot, probably too much, in fact, but it's always about what's the shot, what's the angle, how do you tell this thing, what's going on, what's next, what's the cutting pattern. It's all that stuff that is just inherent in live action filmmaking that we wanted to kind of bring into this. And the discovery of this tap story format really felt like, okay, we can approach telling stories within obviously certain confines. Like we're not doing an animated story here, but within certain confines, we can bring that cinematic sensibility to comics, which is awesome. And then the second thing, which is actually a comedian friend of ours, Paul Scheer, who I was shooting with, looked at, he'd read the app and he looked at it and he came back after having looked. He said, look, you can tell a joke in this format in a way that you simply can't as effectively on the printed page. And that really sets something off. It's like, oh yeah, we can do realistic dialogue in a way that is just unthinkable on a print page, because worst case scenario, you can have an image of me and an image of Eben, and you can keep cutting to and fro in a tap story format, and our dialogue balloons can change, and you still get the story, you get the dynamics, you get what's going on, in a way that on a printed page, it would just fill the entire bloody thing with words, and that would be no fun at all. So I think it was the combination of those. It was what I felt like it was the successful combination of those two things, and the kind of realization that those work together very nicely, that really had us kind of dive further and further down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, 100%. So much fun to be had. So this is a preview of the platform. If you go to macroverse.com right now, you'll see a version of this. You'll see DMC front and center, who is also the background that you've seen those figures behind us. We kind of soft announced a project that we're doing with DMC. Yes, that DMC of Run DMC.
Yes.
Very, very cool.
The guys who just headlined the 50th anniversary of hip hop at Yankee Stadium on Friday night. Cool. It's a great show.
Exactly. So I want to caveat what I'm about to show you with two things. One is we are still very much in development, and I am showing this live from testnet right now. So live demos from testnet while developers are still working on the product are not always going to run as smoothly as we might hope they will. So there are some images that are certainly temporary images. There's some content that's going to placeholder content. Like you're going to see some rough edges. So I just want to caveat that. But my point is I want to show the fundamental building blocks of what we've put together here. So this is a version of what you'll see on the homepage. We think of these different entertainment franchises as in the context of worlds. And so some of you may recognize some Web3 projects here that we now have brought into the Macroverse, like Vogu or GSA. Our own project, Deadtown, Bushido's. And then there are some other series, we talked about Remind. There's an edition of Remind that we're putting out in this first drop. Digital Pools, which is fantastic, which, is out on the app right now, but will be coming to the Web3 side of things soon. And then we can do some really fun things with these different editions, like animated cover art, which is just so freaking cool. Different styles of, working with different artists to, create these different editions and levels of rarity around the pieces in the collection. So there's just an incredible array of stuff that we've been able to bring together, both traditional comics artists, as well as some well-known crypto artists who have fleshed out the different editions within this collection. But so let's dive over to Deadtown. We talked a little bit about this, and this is the way that I can kind of show you a bunch of how these pieces all fit together right now. It's been the thing that we've been mostly kind of fleshing out in the testing phase right now. I can already see.
Funnily enough, we have a certain fondness for Deadtown. I think it is the series that we tried. Yeah.
So this is also the one that Adam mentioned, where we had written a TV pilot for it, and that got killed by The Walking Dead. And so it's been really fun to revive it, and both initially in comic form, and really where we figured out the tap story format that we talked about was in the making of this series. And just as a side note for anyone that's creative out there, the best way to figure out anything is to actually make something. And so, in that process, we were able to experiment and prototype and try new things and kind of figure out, how to bring this all together. So here we are in a world. So this is a world page. And within that, we can tell you more about, what is this world? What is the concept here? And in this case, it's this, post-apocalyptic neo-noir world that is overrun by zombies, but the world's not about the zombies. It's about the people that live in this world who have kind of gotten accustomed to that. It's kind of like if COVID was the zombie apocalypse. It's still out there, but we've kind of gotten used to how we live with it. So, there are these different epic editions. These are epics, or what we call our digital collectible comics. Again, everything from, a version of it, which will be actually an archive, what we call the archive edition of Dead Town, which is the very first version of the top story. So if you want to see kind of like what was the first iteration of this, that's one of the editions that we have in this collection. There's the animated one. There are one-of-one covers in each of the collections. So in each of these collections, we're releasing 1,000 available pieces, and inside of that, there are these levels of rarity, including one-of-ones. This comic artist, wonderful artist named who goes by Behemoth, who's also doing some stuff with us on The Wanderers. And then we have characters, and so we minted a character collection, which actually you can still mint characters from. And then there's a whole storytelling component. And this is a great example of one of those bugs where after we get off of this meeting, I let the developers know that we've done something that is causing this extra spacing to appear. So when we say building in public, this is what we're
Here it is.
So once you kind of get familiar with the world and what the different components of it are, then here are what these digital collectible editions look like. Again, we call them epics. We give you a preview of an episode on these epic pages, so being able to kind of dive right into the series and get a taste of it if you're actually on the website. But each of these tiles, each of these rectangles is actually an NFT. And so this is what we spent a lot of time figuring out, is that rather than, again, having a piece of art that then token gates something on the website, all the content in season 1 of Dead Town, in this case, I believe it's 10 episodes, are packaged in this interactive tile. And so within this, if you don't own this edition, you can come in here and get a little preview of it. So right within the tile, you can get a taste of what's the art look like, a little hint at the story, little way, kind of like a trailer for the series, so that you can decide if you do in fact want to collect an edition from this series. We can also tell you who are the creators behind this. We can give you the specific cover art. In this case, this is 63. This is on our, on testnet, we've minted 63 out of 710 available of this particular cover, this particular edition. And then, if we come back out here, I can learn more about what's included in this edition. And so one of the things that we built into this system is how many seasons are included. In this case, it's 1 season. 4 episodes are currently live out of 10 that will be ultimately pushed into this tile. We will be able to add extra features and bonus content over time. And we have built in a way to deliver rewards for particular ways of participating in the collection, so that over time, these are differentiated by their rarity, but they can actually be further differentiated by the activities and the ways that the owners of these particular editions participate in the broader ecosystem. Also from within here, you can learn more about the series. You can see what episodes are currently inside here, and we can push new content into these interactive tiles over time. And so what you'll actually get when you mint these initially is the first 3 episodes of each series will be there on launch, and then we'll be delivering a new episode into your specific edition every week. And so you'll have new content every week to keep coming back to within this edition that you've collected until the whole season or the whole series is done, depending on what amount of content is packaged in each of these. So now I've come over to my epics. So these are all ones that I've minted here on testnet. And because I've minted them, now instead of that preview button, I can hit continue and just dive right into wherever I left off in the series. So let's try that again. There we go. So I'm part way into episode 1. Here in the series. And so it just brings me right back to where I left off. we're taking a lot of cues from how we've become accustomed to consuming content on streaming, for example. So understanding that, I finished episode 1, maybe I got caught up in something else in the middle of episode 2, let's just click one button and jump right back in where we left off. And again, you can see that, the kind of magic of the format as we think about, how do we move through this sequence where we discover that mom has been bitten and oh shit, they're about to go very badly. So there's so much we can do with this format, both in the storytelling side of things and also now in these collectible editions. And I'll also point out, where you saw the version that was formatted on the tablet is also what you see on phones at the moment. And that's been custom formatted for those devices. Because I'm looking at this on desktop, you get something that's been custom crafted and formatted for the desktop. So we really also care about giving the best possible experience, no matter what screen you pick it up on. And, kind of fundamentally believe that we just live in front of all these different screens. We're moving between them fluidly, and we want to give you the best version of the material, no matter where you pick it up.
I want to interject there one second and just give you some credit for that, because I think a lot of what you've been doing over the last 10 years, 12 years with Ricky Ricavina, who's our third partner, who have a gaming background, bought and sold, sold a couple of game companies, but Eben and he spent a number of years working together on the UI UX of his games. Yeah. And so I think that's part of the reason why there's the layer of polish that we have on this, I do think sets us apart. And I think it is, it's the vast majority of that is because of you. Obviously, there are other people involved, but I do credit you with a lot of this.
I very much appreciate that. I am a little bit of a UI and a UX nerd. So I am the person, because of that experience and as part of my background, I notice the corner radius on things, both that I am working on and also looking at Android or iOS or those sorts of things. We're really striving to create a world-class user experience in all the things that we do. That certainly is the goal. So here we are, still within this world of Dead Town. And so now we've switched over to characters. And so again, we'll have more to say about this in our session tomorrow. But if you look at any of these characters, so these are all zombies that have been created and minted within the world of Dead Town. These flashing ones have a little significance in that these are blanks. And so you can actually pick up this little secret tip. You can actually pick up blanks on marketplaces right now, like OpenSea, and then bring them back to our app and craft them yourself. So one of the things that's unique about this character collection, I believe we were, if not the first that I'm aware of, that allows you, you know what, I'm not going to switch to mainnet right now. But, we allow you to custom, it's going to make me. All right. So we're going to skip that for the moment. But we allow you through our app to customize and custom craft your own character. So each of these characters have been made by the person that minted them. There's about 1,000 different traits that have gone into this collection. So each of these has been given a stats and experience and inventory system. And so we built this fundamental layer for gamification into this platform as well. And so it's interesting to go, why are you doing this in the context of creating comics? But I think it speaks to this bigger, broader ambition to reinvent how franchises are made, how they're distributed, how they're ultimately made into something that people can really participate in various ways. And so building this kind of layer of gamification in the fundamentals of the platform opens up some interesting opportunities. And I'll more into this again later, but it's as you think about all of these different worlds, and right now there are tens, there will be hundreds, ultimately there will be thousands of different worlds on the Macroverse platform. And so much of the promise of Web3 is about interoperability. So building some of these fundamental layers allows us to do some really interesting things as the platform grows. So, here's this particular Zed, which is what we call our zombies in Dead Town. You can see this one has a switchblade, reading glasses, and brass knuckles. So very fun. I'll show a little bit more about what this does. And then each of them also has a story. And so you, as the owner of these particular characters, get the opportunity to come in here and tell stories. So if I switch over to my Zeds, as opposed to all of them, there are a few that I've minted and another rough edge that we need to fix. But I'll go into this. So this guy I've named Killer Mike. He's aping into class, and you can see his experience and his stats and everything are here. What does he got? He's got a baseball bat. That's it. But I can click on here. I can change his name. I can update his status. I can share that out on social media. I can now come in here and, create a story about him. Let's say, where did the rip in his ape mask come from? You might ask. Adam, where did it come from?
He got into a fight with a particularly savage banana.
Oh, yeah. Okay. He was on the receiving end of a bitterly savage banana. Story for another time. So you get to, come and create and craft and update your story. It takes a moment for it to get registered, since this actually does happen on chain as well. And then that story is now updated within your character and goes out into something that we can build more content around, that we can, take these characters and recognize them as canonical. And when they do become recognized as canonical, we quote unquote greenlight them. So this is, now an upgraded version of the NFT that got minted. Steven, who does all the art for Dead Town, created a unique color of one piece of art to represent this character in its canonical form. You can see this menu now has some new options. And so, we have this animated transition, which is kind of pre and post apocalypse in this particular case. You can say, oh, what was the original mint? This is the character that was actually created by the owner of this character. Here's the greenlit version of it, the color version. And then here's a fun, kind of side-by-side split view, which is kind of fun to share and be able to instantly recognize within the broader collection. So there are 10 or 12 of these that have been greenlit at this point in the entire collection of about 6,000. Again, we're looking at the testnet version, not the mainnet version, but if you go check it out on OpenSea, you'll actually find lit is one of the traits, and you can see the ones that have been given that treatment. And all of those have now short stories, which have been created as comics, which will then be released both on the Web2 app as well as through collectible editions on the platform. So you can start to see, we're thinking a lot about this kind of life cycle of how do we create content, how do we give elements of the universe to our community, to our collaborators, to creators that want to spin up this kind of a world that we let people play within, and a sliding scale of, all the different things that we'll be able to do there now and over time. So we're just, trying to think about what are all the fundamental pieces that go into creating the next Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Star Wars, let's aim for the stars here. And, really make something meaningful. So that is really what I had to show today as far as a bit of the mobile app, what the Web3 platform looks like. The couple of people that were hanging out backstage decided they were tired of hanging out backstage. So that's all fine and good. Adam, anything else we should touch on at the moment other than kind of talking about what's coming up?
I don't think so. I think the one thing to touch on is the, there's a lot of obviously focus on the stories and the creators, because we do feel like that's such a fundamental part of this process about what Web3 can kind of access. However, I do think it's important to note, not everyone who is a part of these communities, who has these characters, any of those kinds of things, not everyone wants to tell stories or aspires to it or feels like they can. And so we are building in mechanics, and we've actually got kind of a fun announcement tomorrow that we're going to tease. Yes. We're doing a live AMA with a live town hall with the Wanderers team that we've been working closely with, producing comics over the last few months. And there's a fun announcement coming there about how one might be able to utilize characters kind of across collections in various ways. So if people are interested in a more passive, I've got these things, I love these things, and I'd love to see them out there in the world kind of imprint, or in whatever the digital equivalent is. I don't have a good answer for what imprint is on a,
it's in mint.
In pixels? In mint. There we go. In mint works. All right. In pixels. Yes. We have stuff that we're building around all that too. So that's fun.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, I think, there's a lot that's gone into kind of thinking through all this. And it's funny, like we're still just at the stage one in some ways as well, since we're kind of getting close to the release of this first round of content. We've got Ket coming in live. So Ket, how are you?
Hello.
If you can hear us, we can see your K.
See your presence. It's not showing as sound happening.
Yes, that's right. So if you're talking, we can't hear you, but we'll Macmini
doesn't have a mic.
Well, thank you so much for joining the stream. If you would like to type a question, we'd be happy.
Type a question and we will answer it very, very happily. Yes.
Thank you for coming in, regardless of the mic situation. I thought there was one other thing I was just thinking of, and I think I've lost the thread there. But so I think it's I think what it is. Oh, here's what it is. So based on something you said, so I think some of you, if you've heard me talk about this, you probably heard me talk about this already, but I'm going to say it again anyway. So, not only do we think about these kind of fundamental tools for storytelling, for how people can participate, for the right type of experience and package that we can wrap these different, experiences in. But, to what Adam said, we also recognize, different people have different ways they want to participate. And so it's important, from our point of view, that we not say everyone has to fall into one particular category, but rather we want to create a range of ways that people can participate in the places that they are the most excited about. And so, I see myself on every part of this spectrum. There are times, and I have this mental model that I call a participation spectrum, which is, you've got times, or you might be the type of person where you really do just say, I'll pay $5 a month for an incredible amount of awesome comics and, the support the creators that are making this kind of stuff. Like, give me the Web 2 app. I'm perfectly happy with that. And, I'll be the benefit. I'll be the beneficiary of all the other people that want to make this stuff and put it out. And that's awesome. Like, we'd love for you to be that person and to be one of those people. And sometimes I am absolutely that person. I'm just like, give me a show that I can get into. Let me click play on, Netflix or Apple TV or whatever it is. Just, bring me the good stuff.
In fact, I would say most of the time I'm that person.
Most of the time. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think the majority of people will continue to be on that, the receiving end of content. There's so much content out there. The majority of the stuff that we're going to see is not stuff that we've made. So, there's side of the participation spectrum, which is, just give me great stuff. Then there's all the way on the other side, which I categorize as like, I want to own it and I have something to say about it. And so I think that I have something to say about it is a piece that's unique to Web3, that these doors are open to, I have something to say about it. And, I've been going to comic conventions since I was, 14. And I just so clearly remember spending a whole day at the Marvel booth at my first comic convention and being so excited to see like previews of books that had come out yet. And oh my gosh, at this point, it was like a trailer for the horrible Captain America movie that they made in the, late 80s, early 90s. And, but being like, I was proudly wearing the, like, I'm a Marvel zombie, sticker that they gave out at the booth. But if there had been a way for them to say, hey, do you have any ideas for a character that, could show up in the next, storyline of Spider-Man? Like, I would have been so unbelievably excited. I mean, frankly, you wouldn't have had to pay me, but if then there was a way for me to actually benefit from that as well, damn. And like that world hasn't existed prior to this mental model and these technologies that now allow that to exist. And so I think that is what I get so excited about, is that you can be that lean back, just give me great content person, or you can be that I have something to say, I want to play in creating these things, or you can fall anywhere in the middle, and you can even move between the two. And I think that to me is what gets so exciting, is being able to create the tools and the technologies and the methodologies to allow people to come in and play and participate however they want to, and to be rewarded at whatever level that participation warrants. And so, I will end my soapbox in this part of the conversation by saying, I want us to be very clear that Macroverse is not about, buy this today, 10x it tomorrow. Like nothing we're doing is built for that. If it happens, great. But that's not what we're here for. What we are here for, and what we deeply believe, is that creating things that are meaningful does have value. And I have comics in my 25 boxes of long boxes where some of them I bought for $5, and the next week they were on the wall at the comic store and you couldn't find it for less than 20 or 30 bucks. So not a bad return if I had been interested in selling those. But I have other stuff that it took a decade or more for it to be legitimately valuable. And I think when we're talking about creating media and franchises and characters that are meaningful, like we are very much in this for the long haul. And the bigger opportunity for anyone that wants to play is to be in it for the long haul as well. So that these are things that you are seeing get bigger and bigger and bigger and more meaningful over time. And the rewards that come along with that, in every sense of that word, track that timeline. So I don't know. I think that's in the market that we're in right now. I think it's important to create that context. Like this is 100%, my life's work. I've come to that, at this point, all the dots connect to, bring us to this moment, and very excited to be here. So anyway, Ket is back with a question.
He's typed it. I'm not sure the mic is working again.
Yes.
If it does work, great. If not, he's typed two different questions. So one is looking for a digital comic platform for, 20 years back. Do you have a route for creators to get in touch?
Yes.
Yes. Content@macroverse.com. Email us. We're always looking for new things. Pitch, we'll send out an NDA. Obviously, we don't want to, we always want to draw. We're careful about taking this kind of, here's an unsolicited huge thing, because we've got so much stuff going that we don't want to run the risk of appearing to steal someone's ideas, obviously. But if you've already produced it, we're always looking for new, interesting stuff. You've got ideas, we're always looking for good stuff. So please, please, please. Secondly, Ken asks, have you had digital comics on your platform being printed in physical as well? Not yet, but...
Well, two answers to that. So some stuff on the platform has come from print
has
first.
Existed in print. This is true.
So it has existed in print first, and we've adapted it into this format, so you get a kind of brand new experience, or it's material that we think hasn't found as big of an audience as it could. So Jason's stuff, for example, we went through Remind. The books of that are beautiful. I mean, absolutely stunningly gorgeous. They've only ever been released through Kickstarter, and so if you weren't someone that bought into those campaigns on Kickstarter, there's no other place to get those books. And so being able to bring those into this format, create this, kind of beautiful experience of them, and distribute them to a wider audience has been, one of the things that I loved, through this process. And then we have just come back from Con this year with a to be announced publishing deal for our content as well. So there will be physical versions of these, and we're exploring, not only, I think two things to say about that. One is, as you've seen with everything we showed today, anything we do in print is going to be custom crafted for print. So, the version that you'll get in print will be the best experience of that material in print. And secondly, there are some interesting things I think we can do that continue to tie all of these different elements together. So yes, there will be print and physical components as well.
Awesome.
And then it looks like Ket has popped off again as well. But
yes.
Thank you again for coming in. And
next time we'll figure out the microphone thing. It'd be nice to hear your voice. Chat. It'd be great.
Exactly. And I see some people that we know in the chat here. So hi, Rommel. Hi, everybody who's tuning in. Thank you. Tiny, what's up? Lady Valor, what's up? Hello, Billy. Yeah, thank you guys for joining. So yeah, I think that about wraps this session up. There's a few little bits of housekeeping. So if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate that, and also helping to spread the word with everything that we're doing. If you like what you've seen today for the platforms, there are two things that you can do. One is go download the app on iOS or Android. It's just search for Macroverse on the app stores and you'll see Macroverse Next Gen Comics. That is us. Download, subscribe, enjoy. There's a lot more stuff coming out on the traditional app over the rest of this year and beyond. If you like what you've seen on the collectible side, we haven't announced an exact launch date yet. We're somewhere in the month to 6 weeks-ish time frame from launch. As you can see, there are a few things that we're still, kind of polishing the edges on, so to speak. And so the best way to keep up to date there is if you go to macroverse.com right now, you'll see that anything you click on will take you to our pre-mint page. And that's where you register your wallet and get on the official kind of list for who's going to have access to these editions first. So they are very limited. There's 5 different series. There's 1,000 of each of those series. We've got hundreds of people on the pre-mint list so far. So I would definitely say if you're interested in those editions, getting yourself on that list if you want to make sure you get them is going to be something you're going to want to do. So that's accessible from macroverse.com right now. If you want to get in touch with us, I am at Ebonverse on Twitter, and Adam is
Macroverse Adam. Nice and simple.
Macroverse Adam on Twitter. We are also very accessible on our Discord, which is where the majority of our communication and activity with the community, opportunities to get involved on the storytelling and creation side are generally communicated through the Discord first. So that is discord.gg/Macroverse. Also just incredible group of people. I have to say, we've been very lucky with the people that have been attracted to what this all is, and the depth of greatness, just the great humanness of the people that are in the Macroverse Discord is really a delight to be around. So that is hats off to everyone that is there, and just the amount of kind of support and just genuine personhood. Yes. It's just really a wonderful space. So thank you for making that happen to all of you that are a part of that. Also, we will be rolling out some more creative opportunities over the next few weeks and months as well. So things within Vogu, things with the Koala Intelligence Agency, which we just announced bringing into the Macroverse. Shout out Vogu, KIA, Bushido's, GSA, the awesome projects that we've been able to bring together. And then finally, we have 2 more sessions tied into these Web3 Comic-Con events over the rest of this week. And then one additional place to connect with some of the stuff that we're working on. So tomorrow, next Web3 Comic-Con session, and if you're interested on the creative side of what we're doing, this is definitely one for you. This is going to be tomorrow at, looking at the calendar, at 3:30 Pacific time, 3:30 in the afternoon Pacific. So that makes it 12:30 Eastern time in the US.
Latest 6:30 Eastern.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Adam, being the EST side of this. So yes, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern is our next live stream as part of Web3 Comic-Con. And that one will focus on community storytelling. So we're going to talk about the process that we go through, how you can take characters that you own and see them become part of these canonical worlds that we're building, or even just the methodology of how to do it, if you're interested in that, side of things. And then we're also going to show some previews from some of the episodes that we've produced that we haven't actually released yet. So we've got several Bushido's episodes, some Dead Town episodes, maybe a little preview of a couple of Wanderers pieces, but we've got some incredible art based on this process that we'll talk about, that showcases, kind of what that final product looks like, and ultimately what you'll be seeing hit the apps as well. So again, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 EST for that tomorrow. And then Friday, we've got a really fun one as well. One of the things that we do from time to time for the people that are in the Macroverse Discord is we have a channel that says stake characters. And so if you own NFT characters from any collection, you can bring them into that channel, put them into that channel. And when we say stake, it doesn't actually mean like we're locking them up or anything else. It's really just submitting them for collaboration, essentially. And so what we do from time to time, myself or other artists in the community may decide like, oh, I really like the look of that guy. And we'll create a one-of-one piece of art based on your character, and then mint it and just drop it into your wallet for free. It's just one of the fun things that we do within the community from time to time. And we're going to be doing more of that. So tomorrow we're going to do a live drawing version of that. This is at Friday is at 1 p.m. Pacific. So that'll be 4 p.m. EST. But myself and a couple of other artists will be doing a session where we each pick one of the characters that's been submitted in the Macroverse Discord. We'll do a piece of fan art of your character, and then we'll mint and drop it into your wallet. So if you're interested in having that happen with one of your characters, also you'll want to come into the Macroverse Discord, discord.gg/Macroverse, and find that stake characters channel, which is also in the announcements, so easy to find. Or if you don't see it, let somebody know you don't see it, and someone will point you there. But throw your characters in there, and you might see them interpreted by one of the awesome artists that will be part of that live stream. So those are the things that are coming up. There's lots more, but
also just to drop it in there, there is if you are a Wanderers holder, collector, anything, there is a specific Wanderers session at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow, Thursday morning, which we will be chatting with at the end as well. But that's very specifically all things Wanderers and games and all sorts of cool stuff that they are doing. So yes.
Yeah, super cool project, very story driven. They like to describe it, which I think is wonderful, as an R-rated Star Wars. And the game has just been announced and it looks fantastic. So yeah, if you're interested in what's happening over there, that's on Twitter Spaces tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon, and then the other stuff that we talked about. So lots of fun places to plug in over the course of the week. And as always, find us on the interwebs, and there's a lot more to come.
Excellent.
I guess
have a great rest of your day, everyone. Cheers.
Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you later.
All right.
And
bye.